you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, no. You know what I mean? Like, when I'm saying
there's more jobs to be
in LA, they always,
but
they
Latinos are not only the only people
I didn't mean it like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that.
Okay.
Like, I'm not part of this argument.
Well, first of all, let's just say we are a nation of immigrants. 460,000 open jobs today. Wow. I have 5,000 farm jobs that I need filled so we can plant the crops.
Vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants.
You see, even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops.
This is the largest business in this city, and it has thousands of employees who work here. These employees tell me that this has come as a total shock to them. Many of them came into work this morning, saw a few corporate managers walking through, didn't think anything of it, but then later were informed through emails, letters, and meetings in person that thousands of them will be left without a job on June 28th. That is when the business is officially closing its doors. And I spoke with the mayor of Perry, who tells me that their first priority is to help the people who lost their jobs, and they plan to have conversations with Tyson tomorrow morning. Lawmakers add that they are disappointed in this closure. I spoke with an employee who has worked there for over 30 years. He says he is hurting right now for everyone.
I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be like, but I know from what I've heard, there's a lot of people in tears, which I am almost right now, just thinking about it. Just so many people that have given their heart and soul out there, and to have this happen just out of the blue, it's crazy.
Now, the city administrator tells me that another priority they have is to start reaching out to businesses and find somebody to help fill this spot when that closure does come. Coming up at 6, I'll tell you more about the closure as well as more about how employees found out about this and how they're feeling. But for now, live in Perry, Dana Searles, Local 5 News.
I'm not sure exactly how this happened. I don't even know how any of this is possible, man, because Joe Biden told me that the economy has never been stronger. He also told me that there has never, ever been a more successful job-producing president in our history. And yeah, he's the same guy that told us that the border was secure and that illegal immigration is just some sort of non-issue. It's just basically a right-wing conspiracy, MAGA talking point. But here's the thing. If any of those things are true, how is it even possible that hardworking Americans in forgotten towns are now losing their livelihoods, only to have new opportunities to be given to people that supposedly don't even exist, people that really aren't even here except for in the frightened minds of crazy right-wingers. So here's what's really going on. You know, I did a video a couple days ago that actually got some pretty interesting feedback. Actually, I won't call it interesting, some pretty disturbing comments from some of our more diehard leftist followers. And they were basically intimating that there really aren't any Americans butchering chickens anyway. They're trying to say that that's just below us, below them, or I'm not exactly entirely sure what they're trying to say. But I will tell you, there are Americans butchering chickens, and they're slowly being replaced by cheaper foreign labor. And while all that's happening, Tyson, the largest food manufacturer in the world, has just announced that they're going to be shutting down a pork processing plant in small town America, Perry, Iowa, that employs 1,000 Americans. And Perry, Iowa, by the way, just for frame of reference, has a population of only 8,000 people. So that Tyson plant is essentially the entire town. And people are upset. People are scared. People are pissed.
There you have it. Tyson Foods boycotting and sacks 1,300 of their staff. They're going to rehire illegals, and they're going to give them lawyers for their immigration process. Tyson Foods, you have just stooped to the lowest level common denominator there are, because you're taking away from the citizens and giving it to the people who don't even deserve it. Paying them $16.50 an hour. They want to hire 42,000 asylum seekers, and they want to bump that up to 84,000 by the end of next year. So my tribe out there, you know what to do with Tyson. It's time to read some labels, get educated, share information, tribe time, because this is unacceptable.
The un-American food company Tyson, the boycott continues. We're about to Bud Light you. Yeah, we're gonna hit your profit significantly. You thought it would be okay to fire 1,300 Americans so that you can process in 5,200 illegal immigrants into the Tyson food plant because you want cheaper labor? You're not focusing on Americans now. So the offer for these illegal immigrants or asylum seekers is that they have a job and a lawyer. So this seeking lower wages, we have seen this before in our past and it did not work out well then. So I highly suggest you good folks not buy Tyson products anymore.
They have a program, they say, that will alleviate the headache for city leaders that complain about having too many migrants. The migrants will be offered $16.50 an hour, along with other benefits that include temporary housing, child care, and legal aid. They will be given free representation. So now, as you can imagine, there are calls for boycotting Tyson Foods. So distract everybody with a burning story in the media, right? TikTok, the House passing measures to get rid of TikTok, and everybody's paying attention to that. And this is what they're doing in the background. Have these corporations lost their mind? They seem to be going rogue. Newsweek is pretty reputable, so I'm inclined to believe what I read. And it's very disturbing and disgusting.
You know, I hate the idea of boycotts. You know, I fully and completely support people deciding who to do or not to do business with. I do it all the time. We all do it all the time. But something really just never sits right with me with the whole like organized boycott thing, especially when you consider if the goal is, you know, the protection and preservation of jobs in places like Perry, Iowa. I don't really see how boycotts get us there. You know, that said, we do have to find a way to get there. I personally think it all goes back to the border. It all goes back to protecting our own sovereignty, and it all goes back to policy. And not just policy, not just good policy, but good politicians that will actually enact our good policy. And I think something we can all agree with here, no matter what side we're on, neither party has ever really tried to do anything more than just talk about the border. And you hear the left talking about it all the time. They don't exactly mean what they're saying, but they say that Donald Trump had a Republican Congress and still couldn't build the wall and still couldn't make Mexico pay for it. I can hear a couple of the guys right now. But you know what? They're right. The establishment wings of both parties, they want open borders. They support open borders. And I think, honestly, I think they need open borders for different reasons. You know, Democrats, they think they can replace other marginalized communities that feel beholden to them right now with some new group of second-class slave labor citizens, right? And that only makes sense. You know, they were, and will always be the party of slavery. And if you doubt that, if you think I'm just talking in hyperbole, just ask yourself, who supplies the materials for their free energy batteries in their world-saving electric cars? All right? That's not what this video is about, but that's the Democrats. The Republicans that support open borders, they only want the slave labor. And they actually think that they can stop those people from somehow getting a pathway to citizenship, which of course will give them voting privileges. They just want to allow their big business benefactors, companies just like Tyson, to keep enjoying a never-ending stream of cheap labor. Both parties want the very, very same thing. They want the same bodies here. And neither one of them is ever going to stop it voluntarily.
Bloomberg's Simone Foxman is reporting on how meatpacker Tyson Foods is capitalizing on this inflow. And Simone, this is one of the stories that really got my attention this morning on the Bloomberg terminal. We know that critics of the White House talk about New York City migrants as illegal, but your story actually points out that they have work authorization. Walk us through what that means.
So these are asylum seekers or people applying for a very similar temporary protected status. So they apply for asylum and then they wait. But that application for asylum starts a ticking clock. And so most of them will have work authorization within 6 months. That said, they may wait for years for their very first immigration court date. And it's a good thing, frankly, for them to be able to work. It doesn't mean that they're on social services provided by New York City or elsewhere. It means that they have papers, they can go get a job, be documented workers. And this, it turns out, is actually a pretty attractive source of potential workers for places like Tyson.
Isn't it crazy, man? The real freaking power that words have. You know, people can cross our border, and if they know just one word in English, you got to make sure it's the word asylum, because they can come here from wherever and whenever they want. They can claim asylum, they can get temporary invitation, they can get a temporary permit to work, they can get temporary protection against having to leave. And I say temporary because that's a joke that it's temporary. When you claim asylum, you enter into a system that is so overworked and so overloaded that is now taking between 6 and 10 years just to decide whether or not you have a legit claim to asylum or whether you got to get out of here, right? And the approval rate, just so you know, it's right around 39% every year. And if you just do the very, very simple math, something leftists almost never do, since Biden took office, there have been 7.5 million encounters recorded by Border Patrol. If just 39% of those people are legit and get to stay, that means there are now 4.5 million people here that should not be here. You know, that they're in a position right now before they get asked to leave to take a job from an American citizen and help a company just like Tyson exploit the system, exploit their customers, and exploit what we've basically turned in to second-class citizens. And I've shown this graphic before, but this shows that we have almost 200,000 less actual citizens working now than we did pre-COVID, pre-Joe Biden. And that every single net job created by the most prolific jobs president in history has gone to someone who now has a 61% chance that they shouldn't even be here in the first place. And I hope, guys, this is making some mathematical sense to people. I'm going to keep going with this, but if you haven't already, guys, help the channel grow. Make sure to hit the like button so that more people can actually get this message.
So why does Tyson have these, what seems to be immense hiring demands?
So it has a turnover rate of 40%, meaning 4 in 10 of its workers every year on its what it calls its frontline workers, the folks who are, washing the chicken, looking for bones, packing it up into trays. Very few of them are going to stick around in the long term. So it needs to hire something like 52,000 people this year. It already employs about 42,000 immigrants and refugees, but it sees this part of the workforce as a particularly good one for immigrants. They like to stay. They've often come from very difficult situations, and so the company is really investing in a lot of services for them, whether it's English language classes, certain childcare services, to try and convince them, come stay. You may make only $16.50 an hour to start, but this is a good job.
I want to know if they've ever offered those same kind of benefits, those same kinds of initiatives to the employees that have actually been working for them for the last 30 years. The ones who are actually from here, the ones who actually built that business. And I promise you guys, this is only the beginning. These are only a few stories that are getting out, and this is only the beginning, man. It does not take a genius to see what this leads to. Invite anyone and everyone to come and claim asylum. While the asylum process is winding its way through a decade-long process, they replace as many higher-paid actual citizens as possible. They maximize their profit in the short term while in the long term working to make it all permanent. Just make it all stick, right? We already see where this leads. We already have progressive members of Congress brave or stupid enough to say just how much our economy really depends on slave labor.
That would provide not just a path to citizenship, but a path to work papers, a path to allowing people who want to work to be paired with American businesses who need people to work. And are going to keep whining about it. We are going to keep pretending this is a crisis while contributing to actual problems. And then we're going to block the solution so that we can campaign on it over and over and over. And we can call it caravans, we can call it migrant crises, we can call it family separation, and they will just recycle it over and over and over again in order to gin up just so much animosity and destruction in this country and racism in this country, because that's the only thing that the Republican Party even is standing on at this point. Yes, on a moral and on an identity basis, but on a nuts and bolts basis. The United States, our culture, our population, our economy needs immigration like lungs need oxygen. And when you cut it off, we will start to die. When you look at other developed economies that have adopted xenophobic or more closed border policies, they enter into decades of economic stagnation. Immigration is one of the best things to happen to the United States of America. And what we need to do is champion policies to make it easier to be documented, to get a work permit. And a lot of folks think there's a line to get into this country. Maybe we should make one that works. Because without that, it's just, we see the inhumanity of a dysfunctional system. We need a path to citizenship in the United States of America. We need to make it easier to have work permits in the United States of America. And we need to be unafraid to unapologetically defend immigration and make it easier to be an immigrant and to migrate to the United States of America, because God knows we need it.
As usual, man, she says a lot right there. My favorite is when she basically says, people think there's a line to get in, which she's basically saying anyone who waits in line at this point is just an idiot, right? Always with the quiet part out loud. But I think the most telling, probably the most important thing that she said that is completely blown up by this whole Tyson story is what Democrats always say. And if it's true, that what they say, that it's all about pairing illegals that need to work so that they can stay off public assistance, as if that's not some other gigantic problem. But it's all about pairing them with companies that really, really need people to work, right? Well, if that's true, then how are we now in a situation where actual Americans are getting replaced? Obviously we're here because, like most everything else the Democrats and their propagandist partners in the media tell you, it's not true. Never will be true, never has been true. This is not a simple problem, obviously, and unfortunately, it does not have a simple solution, but it needs to be fixed, and we need to be the ones to fix it because no one else is going to do it. And the only way to start is to get rid of these open border supporting politicians from both parties, man, Democrat, Republican, whoever. We have got to vote these people out, and guys, we are running out of opportunities to do that. But that's just my take, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.